Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I'm from executeautomation.com and welcome to the next session of our Selenium with Java course. And we have been talking about Selenium basics for some time now. And today in this particular session, we are going to be talking about Selenium locators. So if you remember in our last lecture, we were working with locators like we went to an website like eaapp.somi.com. We also understood how we can identify a locator or locate a UI control using this inspect option of this browser, and we also identified how the controls can be identified using its ID and its name. And we also performed a click operation using the click button, the click method of the web element, and we also performed a typing operation on a text box. Quite interesting. We were doing quite a lot of things in our last lecture. And today I'm going to be continuing from where we have paused. But I also gave you some homework in our last session to do it yourself, the entry of data like the password as password on this text box and click the login button. Hope you have did it yourself. And if you have not, then we are going to be continuing we can still continue trying to do the exact same thing that what you have did it, or if you have not, just watch this thing and hope you can do a correction yourself. So what I was doing in our last lecture was we tried clicking the username, we tried clicking the link, and then we tried entering the username, and then that's all, right? And now we have to do the exact same thing for the password. I'm gonna go up this thing a bit faster because you know how to do that. So I'm gonna say txt by of txt password is equal to by dot, and guess what? The password can be identified using its name as well, which is password, I guess. So if you see here, the name of the password is password. So I can identify using its name as password. So I'm going to say password, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to say var txt password element is equal to driver dot find element, and then I'm going to pass the txt password over here, and then I'm going to click the txt password element, sorry, not click, send keys over there as password, and that is going to enter the password for me. But before I go any further, now you may think that Karthik, because we are passing this as a parameter here, the username and also the login link, I'm passing it as a parameter for the find element. Can I reduce this line of code? Any chance can I do that? Guess what? You're 100% right. You can reduce it. If you already did that well and good enough, you are already a master in this case. But if not, for the people who think that something like you have pinging the question in your mind and you wanted to get this thing done, this is the way that you can do it. You can write this 3 line of code in just 1 line of code. If I say that, how beautiful it is, right? Let's try to refactor the code. So we call in programming world as refactoring that code. So we are basically gonna factor that whole code and we can refactor it in a more sophisticated fashion. So this 3 line of code can be written. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna comment this whole code, control slash, and then I'm going to paste this code over here once again. And I'm gonna say this login link can be identified in the find element method, right? So I'm gonna copy this entire by, and because see, essentially in the find element method you are passing the by type, you can even pass the by link text, login link text like that. This is still possible. So this line is bye-bye, it's gone. You don't have to do that. And because you're just going to perform a click operation, and because the return type of this find element method is basically a web element interface, and because this click method is part of that interface, you can, guess what? You can now remove this guy completely and do a dot. See that? We get all the methods like click, find element, and all those method comes in. So I can now just say click. So even this line is gone. So this line right now is actually doing so many things together. So it is finding the element using the by locator and clicking on that element using WebDriver. So all these are now being refactored into just one single line. See how much clean the code is right now. So I'm so excited for you to learn this because I could see that there are so many things that we can actually do with this kind of coding, because we're now not only just doing a best coding practices, we're also writing a clean code with more refactored approach, which is amazing. So now this 3 line of code is not even required. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the username. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm just going to copy this entire thing and I'm going to, okay, guess what? I'm going to copy this whole thing, cut it out, paste it over here, and I'm going to slash it out, which means I don't want this line. I'm just going to comment this code. And now I'm going to write it from here cleanly. So I'm going to say driver.find element by, and we identified the username using its name property, and we were saying it's username, right? And then we did a send keys where I passed the username as admin, right? Same thing we did for the password just now. We said driver.find element by.name. We identified the password using its name as well, and we said the name is going to be password, and then we are going to do a send keys of passwords, which means it is going to type password for me. So guess what is happening? So this guy is going to click the login link, and this guy is going to enter username, and here this guy is going to enter the password. So all these things are now happening for me with just 3 lines of code. Let's see if this works or not. So I'm not, there's a breakpoint already. So I'm gonna go and do a debug this time, and hopefully it opens the browser, clicks the login link, and perform these 2 operations, the username and password entry for me on those controls. So there you go. Do you see that? It did happen. It entered the username and also entered the password for me. Amazing. It's already working, guys. This is so cool. So this is what I was talking about. Like, you can refactor the code in just 3 lines. So that way we reduce so many different things in this code, right? We don't have to declare like a separate variable for the by type, and we also don't have to declare a variable separately for the find element, for the web element type, and then we don't even have to click it separately or send keys separately, because those things can be done in just one single line. And this is more readable because the time you get used to this one, you get acquainted with this kind of approach, and then you'll be just fine with all these code and the way that you read it through. And while we get to talk about page object model in Selenium, you'll realize these things can reduce the number of lines of code even further, and it's going to be even more awesome. I'm telling you, I just promise you. Just stick with me. In upcoming lectures, I will tell you how breeze this whole coding is going to be. It is just going to be like naming conventions, that's all. And your line of code will be just so smooth. So that's how it's going to be. So yeah, that's how we have performed the operation. And the next operation which I wanted to perform today is going to be the clicking of the login button. Click the login button, which means this guy, this button, not the login link, but the login with a log space in button. So in order to do that, I want to identify what is the control, what is the element that we have got there, the login. So if I just right click, do an inspect there, you see that now with this input type, you can see that I don't find anywhere any locators. At least I have like a value as login, but I don't find anything else beyond that. So what should I do in this case? Well, you can see that there is a type submit, which means this control, this input control can be like submitted to a server to perform an operation. So that's what the submit type means. Basically, if you hit this submit, if you click this button, there is going to be some transaction happens between this web application to the server which is there on the cloud or on a different machine or within your own machine with an IaaS or Apache server up and running, and it talks to that. So that's when you do something like a type is equal to submit in HTML. If not, there won't be a type is equal to submit, because this is going to do a post back to the server once you do a type is equal to submit. And because this type is equal to submit at this point of time, we are essentially going to perform instead of a click operation in Selenium, we can do a submit operation to perform this clicking. But before I even do that, first of all, I need to identify this control, right? Like, because how do I identify this control? Guess what? This time we are going to be identifying using a different control. And the different control this time is going to be what is called as a CSS selector. So you see that over here, if I just go back and on the find element with the by dot name and link text, we also have got something called as a CSS selector. So we can use this CSS selector to do that. So I'm going to copy this thing over here, paste it, and I'm going to say CSS selector, and then I'm going to perform a submit operation. So in order to do a submit, you see we have got a method called as submit. I can even use this method to perform a submit operation, but the CSS selector is not there. I wanted to first of all identify the control using the CSS selector. So how do I actually do that? Now comes a bit of a tricky thing that I'm going to do for the first time. I'm actually going to just expand this Edge Chrome browser or Edge browser. You see we have got like a console just near the elements over here. If we just hit console, this console just opens up over here and it's like a prompt. And I will just show you the exact same thing with the Chrome browser as well, because I know many of you are using Chrome instead of the Edge browser, even though Edge is still just a Chrome browser. So I'm going to say eaapp.somi.com. And if I just right click, inspect, let me hit this login, just keep things more aligned. You see that we have got a console there near the elements. It's pretty much exactly the same thing. So there is no difference between the Edge browser versus the Chrome browser. They both are essentially the same because they are fork of the Chromium project. So now I want to identify this control using the CSS selector, this login button. How do I do it? Guess what? If you just go to an inspect over here, you see that we have something called as a class. So we can identify this particular control using its CSS selector, which is nothing but a dot, which means it's a class, and then btn is the name of the class. So basically this class can be identified using CSS using its class name as btn. So what I really mean about that is, if I just go to the console over here, and in order to identify the dot btn or anything like that, we need to use the locator, which is $. So you just have to put $, and you see that it automatically brings me that there is this button you see, once I do that, it automatically knows that that's what I'm trying to do. And this browser is automatically bringing me that this is what you're trying to achieve, I guess. So it told me that there is a dot btn, which means the dot here stands for class name and btn stands for the name of the class itself. And if you're going to be identifying using its ID, you can use hash there. I know it's a bit confusing at the first instant, but that's how you identify a CSS locator in the browser world. So you see that now it just shows me that there's an input btn default. So it just shows me an intelligence that this could be the locator that you're looking for. So if I hit enter, you see that now the locator is coming through. And if I hover there, it just highlights on the left hand side that this is the button that you're trying to look at. That's the locator, guys. This is how we can identify the control there. Now with this in hand, I can identify the control using the btn over here. So if I just go to my code over here, I'm not even going to do even further with the CSS locator. I will talk about that in our next lecture. But over here, if I just type .btn, this should go and click the submit button for me. And if you don't believe me, I'm just going to stop this execution and I'm going to do a debug the test. It opens the browser and it should be in the next page, like login page. Do you see that? Now it is in the login state. So we have successfully logged in, guys. This is for the first time we are doing an entire login process completely automated using Selenium Java. So this is what I mean about that. I mean, you can locate the element not just by ID, not just by name, not just by link text, but also using CSS selector. So if you have any of the UI control in different locator strategy, you just have to find the unique way to identify the control and then perform the location and perform the operation that you're looking for. And it worked. So that's how you can actually do it. But now you may ask, like, Karthik, instead of submit button, can I use the click button just in case if I wanted to do it? You are right, absolutely. You can use click button and this will still work for us as well. So let me just close all the browsers that I have opened over there. And let's try to see if the click operation really performs the exact same operation that the submit was trying to do. And because we have identified the control absolutely correctly, I mean earlier, before like Selenium was even like a couple of years before, if you try to use the click method, these things were not just working fine. But now that Selenium has fixed the way how the buttons can be controlled, it doesn't have to be like a submit. You can use the click method as well to perform the same operation. So if I just do a debug, you will notice that it is going to open the browser for me and perform the same operation that it is usually do. It also is going to perform a click there. Do you see that it clicked the login button there? And we could be able to successfully log into the application. So you can essentially log in to the application as well using the click button. So you can click that button using the click method as well. So that's how you do the exact same thing over here. So now we have seen that so many things are happening over here with just few lines of code. And we have successfully performed a successful login operation. The next homework which I wanted to give you this time, I want to keep this video a bit shorter because I wanted you to digest few things before we talk more about the locators in our next lecture, where we are going to be doing this. We are going to be getting to the employee list. We're going to create like a full workflow. We're going to click this create new button. We're going to enter things over here on this controls and we're going to hit create to create a new employee, and then we are going to complete we're going to perform a log off button so that it's going to do things like logging off. So we're going to do a login operation, creating an employee, and logging off, like full end-to-end scenario that we are going to be doing in our next lecture with all the locators that we have learned so far. So we'll see how we can able to achieve that. But before we even go there, I would recommend you to do it all by yourself and see if you could able to achieve that. If so, it will be great. If not, don't worry, we'll be talking about that in our next lecture anyways. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. Catch you in the next one.